Good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. I had to turn around and see if my light was on. It's like kind of a little dark with the clouds passing over the sun. It is sunny out there. It's a great day. That always puts me in a good mood, makes me energized. It is awesome to see people engaging in the chat. Let me just make sure I turn some of these things off. Hey, Jay. Hey, Marvin. Hey, Giovanni. Seeing some people out there. Terrell, good afternoon. Before we get started, I'd like just giving a quick tip for those of you showing up early and on time as a way to say thank you. And my tip for you today is to make sure you're talking to your customers about how AI can fit into your world. And what I mean by this is that artificial intelligence or AI is this buzzword and it's out there and every one of the federal buyers is hearing about it and thinking about it. A lot of them distrust the very idea of it. I just posted an article this morning. It was in our newsletter, but I posted the article on LinkedIn this morning about AI and talking about how you need to get in there and begin to figure out where AI will fit on your service and offering, right? And if you don't know anything about AI, that's fine. Go team up with a company who does AI. There's a whole bunch of them. There might even be some in today. AI rocks, Michael. All right. And so figuring out where AI fits, then you become this trusted advisor. And it doesn't matter whether you're talking about artificial intelligence, machine learning, or AI being used in cybersecurity, or whether, like one of my favorite ones is how AI can be used to manage elevator maintenance and repair. The government has to replace those elevators. Well, you can extend the life of an elevator by 3 years if you do this with AI, which enables us to maintain it and give it a longer life or something, right? So it doesn't matter whether you're in computers or in any other aspects, right? Maybe you use AI to talk about how the fleet of cars and vehicles that the government has, the tires can be maintained so they don't have to be replaced as often. All those type of things. You just need to think about, what are the most costly things for the government or most annoying through time, and then figure out how to put an AI play. Again, make sure you team up with somebody who does AI. There's a lot of companies that do them. Do it out there, but companies that are experts. I know that Blend, Mike Endale with Blend, it's usually in our community, but he is solidly in the AI space and has done a lot with different agencies. So you could talk to companies like his and say, hey, can we team up? I'll go after the government as a SME and you bring the AI. All right, so that was a short, long tip for those of you showing up early and on time. Go check out the article I wrote this morning about it. It gives you good tips and previous training on that. All right, let me jump over to the training. We got a fast 30 minutes right in front of us, and I just used up 3 of them with a tip. So in the federal market, we say don't lead with your tags. It's a big tagline that we say out there. Those of us who coach small businesses in the federal space, don't lead with your tags. But actually, tags are really helpful, right? And 8A set-asides, that's what we're talking about today, are direct awards. HubZone, woman-owned, service-disabled, veteran-owned, it doesn't matter. Tags are a normal part of life out there, but we say don't lead with your tags. And today I'm going to talk about, well, maybe you should. And I'll give a different play on that because absolutely the answer is to lead with your competencies. But I want to talk about even just when you think about larges, right? Agencies buy from large businesses because of their tag often. Their tag is, we're large. And what I say is if their tag is large, that's actually an impediment to success because they're not as flexible. They can't change on a dime with the government's changing needs. But we small businesses, we're innovative and we can change on a dime. We don't have to go through marketing and legal and public affairs and 5 layers of leadership to get a decision done. Small businesses can make a decision in a single phone call. And so that's something you do. But the government looks to a large, their tag is large, and sometimes buys from them. So what I want you to do is when you think about the end of the year, you definitely want to make sure you're getting these tags front and center. I know that there's people who are going to sit there and jump ahead to thinking about this, but stick with me on the training and you'll agree with me when you get to the end, right? You want to make sure your tags are front and center because at the end of the year, the government starts buying based on some of those decisions and their need. Now, all of that needs to be underlined by the fact that you have to have solid core competencies that are worth paying for, right? So I'm going to talk to you about how to go after some of this end of your money. And I'm saying 8A direct awards in the title of today's training. So that is kind of taggish, if you will. but you must have a core competency that is worth paying for. That means you're good at it and you have experience, and that makes the government feel comfortable paying you for that. So let's talk about winning direct awards for 8A government contractors in the federal market. And here's some steps you can take. And I'm going to cover down on 3 main steps. The last one is going to be show and tell as well. But the first thing is you need to make sure as you head into the end of the year that you are findable and attractive. And I'll tell you what that is all about. The second thing is I want you to take a look at your capability statement and create a specific capability statement for the fourth quarter, that end of the year spending. It's not going to be a big lift, but it's a way to look at it at the end of the year and go, are we showcasing exactly what we need to in the way that we need to do that? And then I'm going to wrap up with which agencies are the best ones to target in the fourth quarter. There are very much specific agencies, right? Just go political for 1 second. If you don't pay attention to politics, then you're not paying attention to how the different administrations feel about spending. Doesn't matter whether you go to one side or the other side, they each have different priorities, and you need to understand how their priorities impact your business and your sales goals, because some of them want to cut agency funding and some of them want to increase other agency funding. Make sure you're tracking on that stuff. And it's the same thing that I'm going to talk about with the numbers at the end of today's training. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market after I got out of the Army. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When you follow a process A to Z, you're going to have repeatable, predictable results. That's what I want for you. That's why I do these trainings. That's why I bring you these daily chances to network with others so that you can meet other people looking to grow within the federal market. So make sure you're networking in the chat, meeting new people, connecting after the fact. If you haven't done so, subscribe to my newsletter. It's got a lot of good information. I just described one about the article that we released this morning in there is about artificial intelligence. It has previous training that I did on how to introduce AI to your current customers or part of your offering, as well as it's got this great article that I read from somebody, and you can check it out, with a lot of good tips on vertical AI. It's a really interesting thing. But make sure you subscribe to the newsletter to hear about it. And finally, we had over 100 people register for today's training. Thank you for doing that. When you do that, it's a simple thank you to us, but also LinkedIn then says, hey, this must be worthwhile. And they push it out to more people, which enable us to grow our community. This is your community, your network. And so when you invite people in, you're growing our community by 2 people. If 100 people who are in today's training invite 2 people, then we have, that's 200 more people or whatever it is, right? Whatever the math is. That's a good day, right? That's us growing our network. So thank you for registering for the training. Okay, let's talk about being findable and attractive. This is very important for anybody who wants to sell something. If you want to sell something, you must be findable, meaning your customers must be able to find you. And attractive means you're matching the search intent. So I'll come back to that in a second. So when you think about findable, if somebody is going into Google and they're searching for a plumber and you're a plumbing company, then you need to be coming up in those results. If you don't come up in those results, then you're not findable. That's a really important thing. It's the same thing that if you're looking for a job, right? And somebody is looking to hire somebody just like you, but you're not coming together. Well, to me, that means you're not findable. You don't put it on the buyer, you put it on the seller. So whether you're looking for a job or you're trying to sell your products and services, you need to be findable when the buyer is looking. The other thing to keep in mind is that sales is inbound and outbound activities. Outbound activities is when I knock on somebody's door and I try to get a meeting. I can only do that for far less than 1% of all the federal buyers. There's over 1 million federal buyers out there, right? If you don't know this, there's over 180,000 acquisition people, like contracting officer type people in the DoD alone. And then you have all these other buyers that are not in that job category, but they are like the director of IT or the director of HR, et cetera. So there's over 1 million in the federal government. You're not even going to barely scratch you're not going to barely scratch something surface. That's what you're not going to scratch. You're not going to barely scratch the surface of those buyers by doing outbound activity, by calling people. So you need to make sure when they do market research and they're looking for you, you're findable. The second thing is when they find you, you need to be attractive. And what this means is that when they search for a plumber, you don't say we do plumbing and painting and electricity and road paving outside and we'll do valet parking and security, because that's not attractive. I was looking for a plumber, not a jack of all trades, because the problem with a jack of all trades is you're a master of none. I'm looking for a plumber who can make sure not only the leak I have is fixed, but I never have another leak again, right? And so attractive means you're matching their search intent. I have a leaky faucet. Right? I'm searching for somebody who can help me with a leaky faucet. Well, when I look at your marketing material, and I have whole separate trainings on the 6 marketing assets you should have, when I look at that, it should scream that you have a lot of experience dealing with, plumbing and pipes and all that kind of stuff. So that's findable and attractive. You need to make sure as you head into the fourth quarter that your company can be found by all these buyers that might be looking for somebody like you. The second bullet I have here is where should you be found? I'm going to give you a couple of places in just priority. So the first place you should make sure you're able to be found is the Dynamic Small Business Search, or DSBS. It's an extension of SAM. So when you become a small business in the government space and you register to sell to the government, you go into SAM. And then there's SBA supplemental pages or extra pages that tell more about who you are. That's called the DSBS, or Dynamic Small Business Search tool. And in there is where the federal buyers go look. It's the only place that's listed in the FAR for market research examples, right? Do your market research to find sellers, and hey, go look in DSBS. So that's the first place. I do a massive amount of training about that. I also have a 5-hour course for free on YouTube that you can go watch that literally walks through how to fix your profile to make it perfect. So that's the first place you want to be found. The second place, that's called the supplier portal. It's the first and biggest supplier portal in the federal government, right? It's 352,000 small businesses. And then when you go to the next level, many agencies like HHS and Army Contracting Command, NASA, they all have their own supplier portals. So I did a whole training on how you could go register in the NASA supplier portal. Or yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I talked about the Acquisition Research Center. And the 24th of June. And so this is where the IC, or the intelligence community, looks for sellers like you. So you register in these portals. So there's many of these portals, and there's like 100 large prime contractors who also have supplier portals. That's where you want to be found, in the supplier portals, because that's where they go look for you, right? When they do market research, they might do a source of sought, et cetera, but they're not looking for you. They're doing a call for everybody. The last thing I will say about where you should be found, in addition to these 2 main places, forget about Google, right? And your website. That's not really used much. But when you're found here, then make sure you talk to the very buyer you want to sell to and say, hey, when you do market research, where do you look? The last thing I put here is just an introduction quickly on how buyers choose sellers. So when I talk about being findable and attractive, I'm describing market research. The government is trying to engage with industry to have a conversation, or the government is trying to see if there are enough sellers for what they're trying to buy, or there are enough women-owned small businesses selling what they want to buy, right? So they're doing market research, trying to understand the market as it relates to their requirements. And the way they choose sellers is pretty fundamental when they down select. And you can think of this the same as when a company is trying to hire for a particular job, and they call for resumes, and they got all these resumes, and maybe one of their requirements is, do you have a college degree, right? And so if there's no degree, they put it in the no pile. If there's a degree, they put it in the yes. So the first thing they're doing is just down selecting to this pile of yeses. Then they put the pile in front of them again, and they ask the next question. It's like, do you have experience with Java or something? Boom, 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 boom. Well, for federal buyers, the way they look at sellers is something similar. I talked about where should you be found. If you can't be found within the supplier portals I mentioned, you basically are down selecting yourself, taking yourself out of the running by being invisible. The second thing is when they look at your narrative and what you write about your company, this is the attractive part. They go, nah, it doesn't match the search intent, right? And then they start coming down to the bottom of DSBS as an example, and they will look to see if you have experience. And if you don't have experience, you go into the no pile. Usually, they'll only go back to the ones with no experience if they can't find a bunch that have experience. This is why if you have no federal experience, don't go knocking on an agency door. Go knocking on a small business door, doing $5-10 million and less, and try to get subcontracts until you get experience. And that experience can be listed in DSBS. So when a buyer is down selecting you, they're able to see, oh, you got experience, right? And there's a lot of other ways they make the decisions. But that's the biggest one. Are you visible? Are you attractive? Are you experienced? When you follow that, you'll understand how buyers are choosing. The buyers are not looking and the buyers are not buying from the best. Federal buyers do not buy from the best. They buy from the best of who shows up. And these things, if you pay attention to it, will make sure that you show up and you're in the running. Okay, so that's being findable and attractive. Next thing I want you to do is you think about the fourth quarter, and this is kind of a refresher for all of us, just a reminder. Sometimes we're using this really old capability statement. Make sure you have an updated capability statement going into the fourth quarter. Does it communicate clearly what you sell? So the first thing I want you to pay attention to is make sure your capability statement is in a Z format that allows a buyer to quickly in 6 seconds review your capability statement and know exactly what you do and whether the answer is yes or no, right? I put here niche down for a quick yes or no, but pretty much everything you do is designed to get a quick yes or no. A capability statement is not designed, its purpose is not to inform, right? A capability statement's purpose is to get you a meeting. And so I need to look at that and really quickly in 6 seconds, scan it and go, nah, it's not me. Or yeah, let's have a meeting, right? And no's are totally okay. You need a lot more no's than yeses in order to get yeses that lead to contracts. And so you need to fully embrace the no, and you want to help your customer, potential contact, get to the no's and yeses fast. When I describe Z format, that's just how you read. We read in America left to right, right? Left to right, left to right. We read left to right, correct? And the idea is you want your capability statement to be that exact same way. Stop making it fancy. Get rid of all these fancy pictures and everything. You want to make it so easy for them to see your company name, your cage code, and your UEI at the top, which instantly says you're registered in SAM and you're good to go. They'll come across and they'll see your tags, which we'll talk about in a second. And they're like, oh, you're an 8A or something. And then they come down, coming from the right corner, coming down. The first thing they see there in that quadrant is your core competency. Here is what we sell. 14-point font. Big. Make it easy for them to read it. Make it easy for them to reject you or accept you, right? And then coming down that Z format to the left side of the page on the bottom quadrant, basically, you're going to have past performance. Basically, what you're saying is, here's who we are, here's what we do, and here's who's paid us. The rest of it is just fluff, and you can look at it. It's not fluff, but those two components are the most important. You take everything that's not important, like your name, your NAICS codes, your phone number, shove that all the way to the bottom. Why would I care what your email or phone number is if I don't even know if I want to talk with you? But if I look at your core competency and say, interesting, and then I see your past performance and I say, wow, if they trusted you with their money, then maybe I can trust you with 15 minutes for an intro call. I wonder what your phone number is. And there it is at the bottom, right? So you've taken me on this journey of making me want to have your phone number, and your phone number is when I need it at the bottom. I put here, by the way, there's a whole training. Maybe if you're lucky, somebody will put into the chat. I have a whole newsletter article that is about this, the capability statement. It has the previous trainings in it. So there's multiple trainings. I think the handout template that I have is in there as well. If somebody doesn't put it in the link, like Gus or Cecilia, then just go to my newsletter and find it. Don't ask me to go find it for you, because we both can search, and you go search. I create the content, you go find it. The second bullet I had here is lead with your tags. This is really important. At the end of the year, you want to absolutely lead with your tags. Don't let me or anybody else tell you don't lead with your tags. The qualifier is you don't lead with your tags out loud. If I walk in and say, hey, I'm a veteran-owned business, give me business. Well, why should I do that? Because you're a veteran? Because you're a woman or a minority, right? You're in a hub zone location. Don't lead with your tags out loud. Lead with your tags in writing. And what I mean by this is sometimes we bury the lead, the tag at the bottom of our capability statement, move them all the way to the top. So when I see in the left-hand side of your capability statement, it has your company name and logo. I'm like, okay, that's who they are. And I come across and I see the UEI and cage code and I go, good, you're registered. And then the next thing I see is that you're a woman-owned small business, certified SBA, you're an 8A small business. What you're doing is screaming and leading with your tags, but in writing. So you're starting off saying, hey, we do artificial intelligence supporting government so they can cut costs. Or we clean your offices so your people can execute on the mission. Whatever it is, right? We say that, but our paper is kind of starting with the tags. And the reason I say this is because it is a very realistic thing that the government looks at our tags at the end of the year in particular and goes, are we hitting our goals? And if they care about their goals, they might try to set things aside to hubs on a woman-owned small business. If they're doing 8A direct awards, which I'm talking about today, guaranteed you want them to see right away that you're an 8A firm because they will just put it in. No matter what the conversation is, 8A direct awards happen. And I will show you that in a second, right? Billions in the last quarter. So in the last 2 months, billions of dollars go to 4,000 to 5,000 companies. Just in that particular 8A side. So tags are important. Just lead with them on your capability statement, front and center. Don't hide those things. Just when you talk, you don't even have to mention it. They will say it to themselves. Okay, before I go showing you how who's spending and all that, let me just share some exciting news. Some of you already know about this. We got hundreds of people in our wait list, which I'm super excited about. But we're announcing GovCon in a Box. This is a web-based solution set or tool set that we're creating for small businesses out there, only for small businesses. And it's to address the top challenges that small business government contractors have. Getting in the door to meet with federal buyers, finding teammates who want to work with you, and then identifying, pursuing, and responding to opportunities you can win. That's what our tool set's going to be doing. We've got the box, we got some tools in there, and we're just going to keep releasing tools out there. But we're going to be announcing this very soon, and we'd love to have you come in and take a look at it when we launch it. Go to govconinabox.com, govconinabox.com, and join our wait list. Okay. And so let's wrap up with which agencies are best for you. I want to talk briefly, and then I want to go in and show you in USA Spending. The first thing to understand is when you think about which agencies are best for you, you really want to figure out, do they spend in the fourth quarter, right? Are they spending money in the fourth quarter of the year? And so we're going to go back and look at FY 2023, and I can show you how to figure that out. The second thing is, do they spend a lot? Right? It's not enough that they do some spending at the end of the year. Almost everybody does that. But are they spending a lot? And what this means is, if they're spending a lot of money in the fourth quarter of the year, then the chances of you winning some of that increases. But if they have a small amount of spend, let's say 50 or 100 million, which sounds like a lot, if that's their end of the year spend, or even the end of the year spend, even in 8A, that's pretty small, right? And they might even have their favorites in there. But when you're talking about a lot of money, you begin to see that there's room for you to play. And then the last thing is, do they buy, especially at the end of the year, and our data for 2023 is what informs this coming quarter, do they buy in your general category? So if you do Salesforce solutioning, et cetera, and you're selling that, well, we don't really want to go down that deep at the moment because it's a hit or miss on there. What you want to do is come up a little higher. So niche down when you sell, but when you're doing a little data research, come back up a little bit and maybe search for software development or website design or things like that, but come up to a higher level of evaluating. Okay, so let me just stop sharing for 1 second, and I'm going to share my other screen. Well, not my other screen, but okay, so hopefully I'm sharing my USA Spending. I took us into USA Spending, and I just want to show you tips really quick on how do you find which agencies are spending, right? So you come to usaspending.gov, you click Start Search Award, and when I do, I'm going to go really fast on this. You can go back and watch the replay. But in here, I'm looking at FY 2023, right? And I'm going to go ahead and close that. The next thing I want to look for is contracts. I don't want to see everything. I just want to see the bottom type. And here, what I'm looking for, just to see what they're doing, just 8A sole source. And actually, I need to change the time period because I don't want the whole year. What I really want is a range from 7/1, what is it, 2023 to 9/1/2023. I think I did that right. Hey, what happened? 7/1/2023. There we go. Okay, so let me submit that search, zoom back out really quick. So right here, you can see I'm just doing a quick search. You can go back in and learn how to do more researches. USA Spending's got a lot of good training. But here I just said, show me the fourth quarter of 2023, because I want to see what's similar. Show me all contracts. That means I don't want to see grants and all this other stuff. I just want to see contracts. And then show me 8A sole source awards. So I'm going to zoom back out here for a second. And over here, I'm going to go to categories. And when I zoom in, let me come back out a little bit. If I zoom in and I come in, I'm able to look at the Army as an example in the fourth quarter. And it's funny, I feel like I'm missing something on my data search, but I can see who's spending the most in direct awards, right? So as I start coming down, I can see who's spending the most awards on sole source direct awards to 8A firms. One of the things about direct awards, et cetera, is this ability to push opportunities that direction. Let me show you what it looks like when you're not looking at a set aside. So if I just get rid of that for a second and we look at end of the year spending, I feel like I'm missing something here. All contracts. Well, so first off, you can just see, let me do the time and show you months really quick. You can see the amount of spending that's going to happen. It's funny, this data, and I apologize, this data is just showing up all poorly. USA Spending is having a challenge. But that is hilarious. I don't know what's going on with that last month. I can't rely on the data, so I got to stop sharing it for a second. And that's just a problem there. But let me come back really quick, share my other screen. Okay, let me just tell you because it's not working, but if you go in, I can show you previous training. If you want to see it, maybe somebody can put it into the chat for me because I've done previous training where it lines it up, especially for 8As. I think if you go to govconchamber.com/8A, you'll see an entire set of trainings I've done on this. The USA Spending data is just screwed up at the moment. The tool's not working. But the whole idea is you want to go into USA Spending, do what I did, where you're filtering it down by last quarter and then seeing which agencies are spending at the end of the year. I've done this training for you already, so I've done this research. If you go in, you will see videos and you will see data that I share that lays out the commands, like the top 20 agencies, top 30 agencies that are doing set aside to 8A, direct award to 8A, so set aside being competitive, et cetera. But you can get in there and look at that. And when you see how I do how I do the searches, then you can filter it down one more level by saying, show me software that's happening. For example, 541, 512, or 511 for NAICS codes. So you can figure that stuff out. All right, just trying to keep us on track with time. Here's the 3 things I want you to remember from today's training as you get ready for the end of the fiscal year and you're going into the fourth quarter. This is literally what I'm doing with my customers, making sure their capability statement is up to date. It's easy to be findable and attractive where it needs to be. That means being in those supplier portals, et cetera, get that done. And then choose the agency that fits best for you to achieve your goals. So an example is I would go after the Army since I know the Army has the largest spend with 8As. What I won't go after, though, is a tiny one, let's say Department of Education. But if you're not able to go after DOD, you can go after the civilian side. So just remember those and prepare for the end of the fiscal year there. Wish you luck on that. And remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I will see you in the next training.